This is Kyle Peterson, and I'm drinking at Moe's.
All right, everybody. Want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin at Moe's be a brand ambassador. They encourage everybody to break out of that comfort zone, live their best self, which, hey, that's what got me starting the podcast. But they got great clothing, great apparel, t-shirts, hoodies, beanies, hats, all that good stuff. Be sure, link will be in the description, and use the code Drinkin at Moe's to get 10% off your order. Let's fucking
got
go.
it. All right, everybody. Welcome, Drinkin at Moe's. Big Mo here. YouTube, as always, like, subscribe, share, comment, all the good stuff because it helps with that pain in the butt algorithm. Where most places you can find audio podcasts too. Today, I'm excited to have with me a guy that I have become YouTube channel. Kyle Peterson, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah, no, it's a pleasure. I've been watching quite a bit of your videos, especially recently. I think I rewatched your whole tour of your collection video, and I'm like, dang, I'm actually liking some of the way he's doing some of those things there. Like, I know your believe it was your Ultimates where you had the boxes kind of behind them and them on the stands. I'm like, okay, you're giving me some ideas.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice way. You put the box back there and you have the figure in front of it.
So that's kind of something similar to what I've done before we get into what I normally start with everybody. Up behind me, you know, I got my collections, but what you did with the Ultimates is somewhat what I did with the Universal Monster TNMT mashups.
Okay, yeah.
The only ones I don't have right now are Leo, Donnie, and Splinter. I have all the other ones.
Okay. That Donnie's the one to get because that one's a little harder to find than the rest I've seen. So you better not wait too long on that one.
Oh, I don't plan on it. I think I've only ever seen it at a couple conventions so far.
Yep. I saw it at Target today, and it's pretty rare.
Oh, God, yeah. Like, I think, what was it? I had to pull off of buying, I think it was the Leo I found at a Target once. And then I went back to the same Target. And I'm like, God damn, I only found it was with the April, and they still had the April one. So I'm like, I don't have that one yet. So I'll go ahead and, go ahead and at least get that one.
Yeah, there you go.
But what I normally start off with everybody with is, you have been very open, like I like, about being a pro wrestling fan. And a lot of my interviews have been with different pro wrestlers. I've actually had somebody with the Major World Order that they work right along with the Major Pod guys on that we talk collections. But what got you started as a fan? And then what made you get the idea of starting the YouTube channel?
Yeah, I guess I started as a fan way back in the 80s, like a lot of people of my generation. Obviously, wrestling was everywhere, and it was the talk on the playground. I mean, all your friends are talking about it. So you're like, well, I better check out this wrestling thing. And I always try to pinpoint exactly where I came into it, but it was somewhere after WrestleMania 3. So I definitely remember WrestleMania 3 was in the rear view, and I remember hearing that it was on VHS tape at the local VHS store, So it was somewhere in that summer after WrestleMania 3 is where I started to become a fan, and I've never stopped watching since then. So a lot of years of watching wrestling, a lot of years of being around wrestling. That's for sure. And then started the YouTube channel. I never really had a plan to ever do a YouTube channel, but I have a buddy that lives around here, and he said, man, you should do a YouTube channel because I guess when I started my YouTube channel, I mean, I just do it like I normally do, like talking to a buddy when I'm opening a figure. That's kind of how I view it. It's like I'm just sitting here, we're sitting face to face, we're talking. And like I've always done the see you later since I was a little kid. I mean, I've always done that kind of stuff. And now it's just on camera. A plan to do a YouTube channel or anything. I just had a buddy that said, "Oh, you should do it. You really should do that. You got a big collection, obviously, but I think people would like to hear about what you have to say." And some do, some don't, but it really turned into stress relief, is what I always say. It's like stress release from my daytime work, my daytime job. I enjoy action figures. I've been collecting action figures since I was like 3 years old. So it's something I'm very passionate about, something I've always enjoyed, and just kind of doing it on screen, I guess, now.
And hey, you do a pretty dang good job. I know I've always been entertained and getting your takes on, new ones coming out, or your top 5 videos, like you mentioned about the
Kings.
the Kings one. That was interesting, because like I mentioned, I kind of forgot about some of those.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff, it's funny, is like all my reviews, all my top 5s, I always say, and I mix it in. It's like, this is just my thoughts. My thoughts are no better than your thoughts or anybody else. It's just my thoughts. It's one man's opinion. Take it or leave it. I mean, if you love something I hate, or I hate something you love, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I always say. Like, especially the top 5s. Like, people always say, "Well, how did you not have this?" Because it's my top 5 list. Put your list in the comments.
Oh yeah, that's kind of something that somewhat inspired me on my podcast, because I do a kind of a spin-off where I brought in a friend of mine, Nate, and we do what we call my 2 cents. We're like different stuff going on in wrestling, we just brainstorm different topics, and we're like, this is our 2 cents. Hey, if you don't agree with it, leave it in the comments.
Yeah.
We welcome the conversation.
Exactly.
Recently, actually, we're about a week off of a pretty rough week for pro wrestling fans in the pro wrestling world, with the loss of both Terry Funk and Wyndham Rotunda, Bray Wyatt, literally like 24 hours away from each other.
Yeah.
Now, me, I don't necessarily have as much of a personal connection with Terry Funk, but you do. And for those the listeners that might not have already watched your YouTube channel and seen the video where you did some thoughts on Terry Funk, what was that personal connection like? Because it was pretty interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's tough. It's still tough. It's like a week. I think it was a week ago last Wednesday, and it feels like 100 years ago, and it feels like just 10 minutes ago in a lot of ways. And I'll never say I was a big friend of Terry Funk, that we were on each other's call list or Christmas card list, but I did spend 3 different occasions in my life with Terry Funk. And I did spend one weekend where I worked as his handler and kind of got to hang out with him all weekend and talk as a normal person, just normal conversation. And, it goes back to me being, 8 years old when Terry Funk, I knew him from VHS tapes from his WWF run. Of course, his LJN I had as a little kid. But when he came back to the NWA, the WCW, I guess NWA technically, for the I Quit match against Ric Flair, I mean, I'd obviously never seen anything like that before. And that made me the biggest Terry Funk fan. Just absolutely loved him from then on. And then, of course, he went to ECW, which I was in high school for ECW. I was the market for ECW at the time. So absolutely loved all that. Back to Chainsaw Charlie and the WWE. I mean, I followed everything Terry then. I went back and saw stuff. High school, I tape traded. I got all those All Japan classics with him and Dory. I mean, I truly was still am a massive Terry Funk fan. So to get to spend time with him on 3 different occasions and get to tell Terry exactly what he meant to me and how much I loved him. And Terry was the greatest guy. He appreciated his fans, or he was making it up. I don't know. But the interactions I saw with him and the interactions I had with him, I mean, couldn't have been a nicer guy. I mean, we had a lot of fun at that merch table all weekend long. You'd have people, well, could you do $10 for an autograph? Well, I would, but Kyle over here, Kyle, he's a slave driver. That's $20. I'd do it all day, but Kyle won't allow me to. And just stuff like that, just ribbon. I'm just a young kid at the time. Just funny stuff like that. And then getting to eat dinner with him and Mick Foley, and just like pinching yourself while you're eating. Like, here's Terry, here's Mick Foley, just the three of us sitting here. Just so surreal to a lifelong wrestling fan. And, Mick Foley, too, a huge fan all the way back to the GWF days as a little kid running home from elementary school to see any wrestling I possibly could. So following his career forever as well. It just really, really hit me hard when Terry Funk, and it's not one of those things that you knew it was coming. I mean, we all, our time comes for everyone, and Terry got 79 years, and he put his body through about 1,000 years of hard times. But it's just, I guess you're just never ready for it. And I'll never forget it. It's like kind of like when the Ultimate Warrior died, but I was in Dallas, Texas for work and coming home. And whenever I go to Texas for work, I'm always wearing Terry Funk shirts. I got a Terry Funk hat on. I'm on the plane. We arrived. They said, the pilot says, turn your phones on if you want, airplane. You can take it off airplane mode. I turn it on, and there I am sitting in the plane and finding out all this news, and just tons and tons of messages. Which I wear my love for Terry Funk on my sleeve on my channel. I talk about it. I wear a million different Terry Funk shirts all the time. So it felt very surreal and very kind of, I don't know what the word would be, like special, that so many people reached out to me that I don't even know that watched the channel that said, hey, I heard the news about Terry Funk, man. I'm sorry to hear that and stuff. And yeah, it was very surreal. And obviously Bray Wyatt's passing, I mean, way more of a shocker than Terry Funk. And a lot of people are like, Kyle, what are your thoughts on Bray? And I've talked a little bit about it, but I didn't have the connection to Bray Wyatt that I had with Terry Funk. And obviously anybody dying at 36, 37, man, that's a bad day at the office, especially that's my age bracket. So that hits a little bit closer to home. So it's like, whoa. But I mean, I'm one that will never say I wear my heart on my sleeve, my passions on my sleeve. And I've never been a massive Bray Wyatt ring fan. I've never met him, so I don't know about the person, but it wasn't something that I'm like, oh, the Fiend, I'm a big Fiend fan. And I'm not going to say like on my channel now that, oh, the Fiend's number one, that's my number one guy. I just don't do that. But obviously it's sad. Obviously it's tragic, everything. And I'm going to do a top five. A lot of people say, Kyle, we want a Bray Wyatt top five. I'll do a Bray Wyatt top five, but it's not, I think you know what I mean. It's just not the same for me as it was for Terry Funk, just because followed Terry Funk since I was a little kid, spent time with him, all that kind of stuff. So it's more tragic than Terry Funk for sure, but definitely a hard week for the wrestling business for sure.
Oh yeah. And, kind of flipped that way for me with Bray Wyatt because, literally being 4 years younger than myself. And it was just like, holy crap. And, I actually I didn't like I mentioned this on a video that I put on my YouTube channel that I didn't realize when I did this episode of my podcast with the former Ring of Honor 6-man champ Dutch, who I didn't realize at the time was actually good friends with Bray Wyatt. And like I tweeted something about, promoting the episode. And all of a sudden, I get an alert. Bray Wyatt liked the post, and I'm like, I reached back out to him. I'm like, are you good friends with? Are you friends with Bray Wyatt? And he's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, that explains it.
So when there were rumors he was going to join the WWE in this last run, there was a lot of rumors about that.
That whole White Rabbit thing,
all that stuff. Yep.
There was somebody that actually commented that on the episode, so it was kind of interesting. And just the, at the time I was still, and I'm still growing the channel and all the platforms, and just the fact that somebody of the stature of Bray Wyatt acknowledged something about my little show, it was like, wow.
Yeah, it's very cool.
It was something else. Now, we've kind of talked a little bit about it. The thing about your YouTube channel is highlighting your collection, stuff coming in. You do have the occasional the ones about leaving your collection. I'm trying to remember them.
That's so hard to
Brain
say
fart
goodbye.
on the name of it. Yes, that is it. And you know, you do a little more, like a few more genres than I do. Like mostly right now, I'm covering wrestling and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I do have some Funko Pops of, like Jurassic World, Marvel, and that sort of stuff. But one thing that I was wanting to see your opinion on, I can't remember if you discussed this on your YouTube channel, but I know, and I'm not certain if they've gone back on this, but Marvel and the Marvel Legends, I know they had done a repackaging of, they weren't using plastic, and it was just like a cardboard box.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that weren't too thrilled with them about that. What were your thoughts on it? Because, when I'm looking back on it, it's like I've actually had the experience of buying like a DVD and not realizing it until later that somebody razor bladed the wrapping on it and took the disc out until I got home. And it's like that box right there just screams that could happen there.
And that's what's happened. We've seen a lot of that over the last couple of years, the last year, I guess it's been. And, I try to look at it. I try to look at everything from all the angles when I talk about stuff. I try to look at the business side of things, and then, of course, the fan base side and everything. And I try to at least, once again, my opinion, but it is a holistic look of everything together. And I understand it. I mean, the thing that people don't understand is, or don't want to understand. And that's the thing. Some people are hardcore figure fans that are deep in the weeds. And then there's a lot of casual collectors. And the casual collectors are going to say, oh, well, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? All that stuff. Well, there was that law, and it was based out of California. And it was that all these companies, not just them, but all companies are supposed to get less plastic by like 2025 or something like that. Well, Hasbro, and I guarantee Mattel and NECA and all them are like, thank you, Hasbro. You be the guinea pig for us. You do this. And we've seen what happened with Hasbro. Now, Hasbro is going back to plastic at the end of this year into next year. Now, how they will go back, it looks like that new Marvel Legend wave, the Midnight Suns, I think is what it was called. They announced that at San Diego Comic-Con. It looks like old school packaging. So it looks like they're going fully back. But I'm sure there's something. It's like cheaper plastic or something, because there's environmental laws that are really driving all this stuff. And, say what you want about the environmental laws back and forth. I mean, that's a whole nother discussion topic in itself. But Hasbro and all these companies got their hands forced. But at the end of the day, customers were having that stuff. People are swapping figures, moving figures around. That's not a good day. That's not a good consumer experience. And I'm sure Hasbro's coming back with that. And they have to get less plastic by, X amount of date. That could be as simple as we're no longer using plastic shipping containers. Okay, we got rid of all these shipping containers that are plastic. They're boards now, or whatever they are. Or it's biodegradable, more something like that. So there's all that kind of stuff behind the scenes. But just yesterday, Mattel showed off the pretty glamour shots of their latest wrestling wave, and there is less plastic in those as well. So I think that's something. It's going to happen. They're going to get it down to a small window. I could see Hasbro eventually going to that as well, so you can at least see what figure is in there. But it's definitely a controversial topic. A lot of people have been very worked up about that over the last year. I try to roll with the punches best I can, but it's one of those things. It's tough. And you feel bad because, like, let's say there's a grandma out there buying something for her grandson. They don't know if it's been open. They don't know. They're not smart enough to look at the tape. I mean, they're just, okay, here it is. Yeah. You get home and all of a sudden it's like a Barbie doll instead of a Marvel Legends thing. And that's a bad day at the office for your birthday party. That's for sure.
Oh God. Yeah. And like you mentioned, thinking back when you were talking about it. Yeah, I can see, the environmental concerns, and, you're trying to do the right thing. And then, I have noticed the new packaging for the WWE figures, and they're small enough window, but you're still able to see, like, that it's still in there.
Yep.
So I can definitely get that. Now, another toy line that I haven't really delved into too much, but after seeing some stuff on your channel, I'm like, I did not realize this. The DC McFarlane figures actually including a stand, because I've debated with certain figures, displaying them out of the box, like the monster mashups and different stuff like that. And I'm like, because I had to buy stands for those ones, but now those DC ones coming with one, that's something different, pretty cool. The thing about, for those our age that, might want to, really display the collection, different figures. What are some of your favorites from the DC line? Because I know you recently picked up that Batman Spawn 2-pack that that was a pretty cool one.
Yeah, the McFarlane's an interesting road. Last year, I was pretty down in 2022 on that line, and I said it in a recent video. I'm not sure which one, but it's like they did a 180 for me. It's like they've improved a lot of stuff with McFarlane, and maybe I've just been fortunate, but I had a lot of quality control issues and some breakage right out of the package last year, which is never good. This year, it's been a lot cleaner, and you're always going to have breakage. I don't care what toy line. I mean, anything that's mass produced, there's going to be a bum thing, no matter if it's food or you name it, clothing, whatever. So I give a little bit of slack there, but McFarlane has stepped it up in a lot of ways. They still got their quirks I don't like, but you can say the same thing about Marvel Legends and any of the other toy lines as well. But I always do commend them for giving a stand. I got one right here. It's a very simple, cheap piece of plastic, but it goes a long way for the adult collectors. And I think Todd McFarlane's got that figured out very well. And definitely some interesting stuff, but he just seems to be all over the spot on things. Like, I want an old school Superpowers 80s. I want the Hall of Justice, all that from the old cartoon. Give me that wave. There's a lot of people that want that. And it's like they dangle the carrot with like this Flash. I just recently unboxed this Flash figure. Very close, but not quite there. It's like, we're going to dangle that carrot and then we'll do it down the road and get you to buy multiple. So once again, goes back to being a business is what it does. But McFarlane is good. Obviously, DC, for me, on my channel, it's not my favorite property. I do prefer Marvel, and I probably do prefer Spawn maybe over most of DC as well, because I was a kid in the 90s reading comic books, things like that. So I loved Spawn back then. But definitely some interesting stuff. And I always love, one thing I really commend Todd McFarlane and the McFarlane Toys team about is they announce something and it's like in hand within a week or a month at best. It's quick. Where you get Marvel and Super 7, some of these other toy lines, it's like, hey, here it is. It'll be here in a year. And then you kind of forget about it. But Todd, it's like, how does he keep this stuff under wraps? He's got a heck of a factory. I think that's kind of known out there in the toy business. He's got a turn and burn factory that doesn't mess around. So that helps a lot of things too. But definitely an interesting, if you're interested in the toy business, Todd McFarlane is definitely one of the heroes. I always say him and Jeremy Padower are kind of the Mount Rushmore's up there on the toy business for what I collect. Obviously, you go back to the old Kenner days, things like that, but modern times, those are kind of the two of the guys on the Mount Rushmore, I'd say.
Oh, most definitely. And, McFarlane, they have such a interesting array of different figures with all the DC universe. You get Spawn, you got the Mortal Kombat figures, which I've been curious about delving into that, but I haven't quite went down that rabbit hole yet. But definitely some cool looking stuff there that's like, damn, you're piquing my curiosity when
for most of their stuff too. If you play a little of that long game, you can get them cheap if you want to. Usually if you have a little patience, you can get some good sales on that stuff.
Oh yeah, I've seen a few, and like I said, the DC, kind of like you, I kind of more prefer Marvel myself, and I do like Spawn. I actually, one of the few comic books I still have from when I was growing up was Spawn Savage Dragon #1, like as minty as I could have hoped for, coming from a tub from my parents' house. And I'm like, okay, I might need to jump and see if I can think about getting this thing graded, because that might, like, ungraded, it's already worth a decent amount.
Oh wow.
So I've been curious. So I'm curious about that one. Next up, I talk about, my collection mostly centering around wrestling and TNMT. Now, one thing I've been curious to hear your thoughts on, because I've been hearing about with the Universal Monster mashups that Shredder is actually going to be getting one sometime down the road here. Because I was always thinking when I'd see the ones that they already have, it's like, man, how could you not have Shredder in here? And like I
Yeah,
was thinking, which one could fit?
I can't remember if Shredder was announced yet or if that's just a rumor. I can't remember. I saw him. I was at PowerCon a couple of weeks ago, and they showed. I think it was a trying to think, was it Leonardo as the Wolfman? So it looks like they're going back around with the turtles. I got to think, the creature will be one of the turtles redone. But I can't remember. There's going to be a Shredder. There's no doubt about it. If they're going to continue the line, they have to. I mean, that's one big, I could even see him doing like Krang as something too, or a foot soldier, even maybe possibly. But I can't remember who Shredder was going to be. But
Yeah.
that was kind of the thing at the beginning of the line too. I was like, okay, who could Shredder fit in to be? And I kind of thought Phantom of the Opera, but then they ended up giving that one to Casey Jones. So that's kind
Yeah.
of what my guess was back in the day, because Shredder's got his mask and all that kind of stuff. Wears a
Yeah.
cape. I figured it was a natural one, but they went with Casey.
I was thinking that because I was wondering who could it be, because the ones they already have released, and then I got to thinking Dracula would be an interesting one.
Maybe that was
I
don't think they've done
cape,
Dracula
and
yet.
then it seemed like it would fit.
Yep. Yeah, it
But
sounds plausible.
oh yeah, and then I will actually reach down and grab this one because I have recently seen the Super 7 of this figure right here, Samurai Leo. It came with some stuff from my parents' house from my collections growing up, and I saw Super 7 actually has one out there of that, and I'm like, that would be interesting to display this one,
yeah, side by side,
right in front of that, and I'm like, I might have to look into making that happen. Because Super 7 has some pretty damn cool line of different TNMT stuff. I know they have, I think it was the Sewer Surfer Mikey and some other ones, and I'm like, ooh.
Yep.
Now you're getting me want to dive down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, they got some good ones over there at Super 7.
Although one, and I've made it no secret to those I've talked to about collections, there is one vintage one that I'm like, if I ever found it, I'd even delve into getting loose and on card, whichever one I found first. But they did the military themed like ones back in the day, and me being a Navy veteran, I saw Mikey, my favorite turtle, was a Navy one. I'm like, oh damn. I like I'd have to be like calling up my wife depending on the price and be like, I'm sorry, but I found it.
Yeah, I forgot about those ones. I haven't seen those in forever.
Oh God, yeah. I have yet to actually see one other than online and like eBay or something. But I have a thing with eBay that like I had delved into some vintage gaming collections, and after about 2 cartridges coming in not working, I'm like, no, not doing that again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. You never know. A lot of trust there.
Yeah. Although, speaking of Ninja Turtle stuff, I am super proud that of my signed Mikey Funko from Townsend Coleman, the voice of the original Michelangelo. And, you talked about with Terry Funk and telling him what he meant to you growing up. I got to actually talk like a good few minutes with Townsend Coleman about, growing up on the original cartoon, and, Michelangelo was always my favorite one.
Yeah.
And then he started doing the Mikey voice, trying to talk to the other guys. And oh, God, it was something else.
I know it's always weird to hear people do a cartoon voice in person. It always like plays with my head when I hear it. It's so weird.
Oh yeah, it was something else. And that same show, I got to meet the guy that was behind Splinter in the first two movies. So that was another cool experience. Now, I would have to be delving into this one, diving into wrestling figures. Now, my thing, I have a few more of the AEW figures than I do WWE. That wasn't really planned, it just ended up happening. My one qualm, and I think I've heard you talk about this before, AEW has been having some kind of repetitiveness with some of the figures they're releasing, like the same names just getting different. And it's like the sheer amount of talent they have on that roster that doesn't have one yet, that hasn't even been talked about having. It's like, come on, give me
Yeah,
a
part
little
of that,
variety here.
one of the big issues they had with that, and they said it, and I don't know if a lot of people picked up on it, was during COVID. Obviously, there wasn't traveling, and
Yeah.
they got a bunch of head scans done during COVID, like the Moxleys, all these guys, Cody, the ones we get tons of. During COVID, they got their head scans, but they didn't get the rest of the roster because COVID hit. So they were stuck. Okay, we got to make Cody. We got to make Cody. We got to make Moxley. We got to make Moxley. Well, then, it's gotten a lot better as of late. The problem is they overshipped a lot of the early series. We had some peg warmers clogging up the shelves, and now they're in a weird spot at retail where honestly they're not performing probably how they want them to perform, and it's very tough because we want I'm trying to think of somebody. We want the Butcher and the Blade. Let's pick them there, and they're actually coming very soon. We want those, but does the average Joe want those? And I think they're trying to find that sweet spot mix with giving us some of the deeper cuts, characters that have been there, but at the same time, you got to have the John Moxleys, the Daniel Bryan or Brian Danielsons, things like that out there, because it's a business at the end of the day.
Yeah, you got to have the bigger names that are.
Got to have them out there, but.
Yeah.
It's really interesting at San Diego Comic-Con. Jeremy Padawer at Jazzwares did announce they are going to start an online store kind of thing for Jazzwares, and they're going to put the Ring of Honor line up there. So it's going to be there for the hardcore fans to give you deep cuts, and they're going to give other stuff. So it's going to be very similar to Mattel Creations, but I think they're going to have more product available there, and it's going to be cutting out the middleman. They're cutting out the Walmarts. They're cutting out the Targets. They're going direct to consumer, and there's always savings when you do that. And every business out there that makes CPG or goods out at retail, I don't care if you're a food company, a clothing company, they would love to get away from Amazon, Target, Walmart, because they take a piece of the pie. They want to go directly to you. So there's a lot of companies trying to do that, and it looks like Jazzwares is going to jump in and do this. So it's going to be interesting. Okay, hardcore fans, you said you want this. I always say you got to vote with your wallet. And a lot of people, and I deal with this at work every day, people say they want one thing, but when it's time to get that wallet out, they don't necessarily come up to the fence like you'd hope they would at the end of the day. But they've definitely struggled with a lot of perception and peg warmers. That's a big discussion right now, just off of CM Punk's comments that Adam Page is a peg warmer. Well, is he a peg warmer? Not really. I mean, I could see how somebody like CM Punk would think he's a peg warmer, but it's a Walmart exclusive. You can only get it at Walmart. So a peg warmer's got to be everywhere. So you can only get him at Walmart, but he ships in cases of like 6 of himself. So there's 6 Adam Pages, and they're supposed to be there for like a 3-month period. That's the goal. So a year from now, if Adam Page is still on the shelf, that Walmart one, okay, he's a peg warmer. It's a year later. So it's all semantics at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, I actually have it. I'm remembering you correctly here. The Walmart exclusive one where he has the title. I actually have that one back there. And some of the earlier ones of theirs, those Walmart Target exclusives, I have the Darby Allin one right here. And it's like, there's a lot here. He's got the title, he's got the skateboard. And then you get into now the Adam Cole one. I have it back there. It's a great looking figure, but it just seemed to me like they went from offering so much extra in the packaging for these Target exclusives, and then Adam Cole, it's literally what,
That
another
big coat.
armband.
It's the coat, that big coat they gave him as the accessory. So
Yeah, that too, yeah. So it was just like, but then I'm like, hell, I'm not much of a completist, but when I'm a fan of the guy and I'm trying to get as many of those exclusive ones as I can, it was like, I'll jump on it. Now, the WWE, they been in the figure game for a while. I recently got the Andre the Giant. I know you being a big Warrior fan, this one, it near and dear to me because it was one of the first ones my wife ever gave me, which she still likes to call them my dolls, but that's a whole nother thing. But I remember bringing it up on your channel, actually, that I've seen in different figure hunts that you have found Ultimates at Walmart, and up until this last Sunday, I had yet to ever find an Ultimate at a Walmart. Like, I was for a while thinking that they were a Target thing.
Oh wow.
And I finally found, I think it was Andre the Giant. I already bought it, but he was there. And then they had, I think, 2 Rey Mysterios and an Eddie Guerrero. I'm like, dang, my next paycheck, I might need to go back there for at least one of those, because I'm thinking with my Ultimates, all but 2 of them are from people that have unfortunately passed away. So I'm thinking kind of like what you did with your Ultimates, doing like a memorial section where like I'll have the figure outside, but with a box behind it, like you did your Ultimates. I thought that would be a little cool idea. Now, I have 2 categories here that I like to round off the show with. One's a bit of a name game where I try to theme it towards the guests, and these people have each been, in my opinion, pretty damn toyetic. And you hear the name, you give me some quick thoughts on the person. First one, my personal favorite tag team ever, the Road Warriors.
Oh, me too. Playing a lot of hits there, Hawk and Animal. When I think of them, I just think of, I think of Black Sabbath with the original theme song. I think of the old school Nintendo game. It was like the WCW game with the black shoulder pads and that. But I also think of their debut in the WWF and the red shoulder pads and stuff. And I remember as a little kid, I always think back, there was no internet and stuff when I was a kid, and Legion of Doom made their first couple appearances for the WWF before they were on TV, before they were announced, and just being absolutely shocked, having no idea they were coming to WWF, and here I am at this Superstars taping, and they are there. I mean, just an all-timer there. And then I never met Hawk, but I met Animal a couple of times over the years, and a very nice guy, at least to me. I never had an issue with him. Not that I would, but, but definitely right up there for me with the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, when you're a little kid, it's hard to explain to kids right now, like Demolition, Legion of Doom, Sting, Ultimate Warrior. It's like, it just seems so cartoony, but it like was, but it wasn't when you were a kid. It was different time. And I don't think like an Ultimate Warrior or a LOD gimmick would work in this day and age. People would laugh like, oh my gosh, what is this? But man, when you're a kid, like, these are the toughest dudes in the world.
Oh God, yeah. I remember hearing the story of in whatever club it was, and Vince wanting to take the Doomsday device, and on the floor, I'm like, God, like I knew Vince was nuts, but goddamn, it was. Now, my little memory I have of him, I actually got to go to a Monday Night Raw taping here in Omaha, and it was back then, and what it was, I forget who they were facing, but I remembered hearing that music hit, and good Lord, me being the massive fan of them that I was, finally getting to see them live. And I don't think there's maybe one other act in wrestling that has had me on my feet, just jumping up and down from the moment their music hit to the moment they went to the back.
Yeah.
Those guys were definitely that for me.
Yep.
Now, next up, a guy that I don't think has too many actual figures, but the ones I have seen are pretty cool. Bruiser Brody.
Now, a very good one. So, Bruiser Brody just recently got a Power Town figure. So I unboxed that on the channel. He had a classic Superstars figure. He had a Junk Shop Dog figure. He's had a Micro Brawler. He's had a Popey, I believe, back in the day, but pretty few and far between for Bruiser Brody. And obviously, you know, it's the first thing you think about, or at least I do, unfortunately, is him being murdered in Puerto Rico. That's what you think about. But you know, I know a lot about Bruiser Brody. I've read like 3 different books on him. I've been to the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame and seen all that. I've met his wife numerous times over the years. Definitely a trendsetter. Definitely somebody far ahead of his time. There's no doubt about it there. Definitely an all-timer. There's no doubt about it. But interesting, he did go to Iowa State. Iowa State, obviously. So he went there and got kicked off the team, and then went to West Texas down there, and the rest was history, I guess. But he was at Iowa State for a short amount of time, and I think he even roomed or was around Bobby Douglas, who was the longtime Iowa State wrestling coach back in the day.
Interesting. I guess I didn't realize that part. I knew he played football. I believe, what was it, now Commanders, but the Redskins, he played for them for a short little bit. But yeah, I just remember seeing, I was relatively young, but I still remember just the insanity of his entrance and just waving around a chain and stuff. I'm like, me being a little kid, he about scared the dang crap out of me. But then,
yes.
Growing up and then looking back, I'm like, me gravitating towards those guys that just ooze that intensity, I was like, oh my God, that guy is the coolest ever.
100%.
Oh, yeah. Now, we've mentioned you being a big fan of Ultimate Warrior and Terry Funk. This guy, I talk about Road Warriors being my favorite tag team. This guy, probably my favorite singles guy, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I was a massive Stunning Steve Austin fan as a kid. He was right up there. Terry Funk wasn't wrestling at the time. Ultimate Warrior and Stunning Steve Austin were my 2 favorite guys. I loved the Dangerous Alliance. I think the Dangerous Alliance is the most underrated stable of all time. I think a lot of people don't pay attention to that WCW time frame. Austin was a totally different wrestler back then. He was more technical, had a lot more different stuff off top rope and stuff, where he became Stone Cold. Obviously, he got the neck injury with Owen Hart. He turned into a brawler is what he turned into. Yeah. But I was such a massive Stunning Steve Austin fan back there. And it's funny that, I was a Mean Mark Callis fan too before he was The Undertaker. Yeah. It's weird how my fandom didn't go into The Undertaker. My fandom didn't go into Stone Cold Steve Austin. Definitely respected him, definitely watched him and everything, but it's weird when I say, well, I was more of a Stunning Steve fan. I was more of a Mean Mark fan. It's just so foreign to most people, but yeah, it is what it is. But definitely Stone Cold. It's one of those ones too where I appreciated it during the heyday, but I didn't appreciate it. I appreciate it more now with nostalgia goggles on many years later. But definitely one of the all-time greats. If somebody said Stone Cold Steve Austin's on my Mount Rushmore of wrestling, I could never say, oh, that's not right. There's no doubting it. It's all subjective, but yeah, I think we could all think of 10 wrestlers that 99% of the people would have those 10 wrestlers somewhere in a Mount Rushmore.
Oh yeah, no, Stone Cold definitely up there for me. I have quite a few of his figures. I got his Ultimate, and yeah, one of the few people, like, I don't get starstruck too easily, but he's one of the few that if I ever got to meet him, I probably wouldn't be able to get a word out.
Yeah.
Now, last but not least on this list, a guy that, unfortunately, I don't believe I actually have a figure of his, but I know I do have the Boneyard Undertaker Funko Pop Undertaker.
Undertaker's another one. I was a big Mean Mark guy. I
Yeah.
loved the skyscrapers as a little kid. And I remember it was such a weird deal for me because he became the Undertaker at Survivor Series. And I was the only one on the old playground, as I always say, that actually watched WCW. All my friends, they just watched WWF. That's it. I'm not watching anything else. I watched everything I could of wrestling. And the minute I saw Undertaker, a lot of people were like, whoa, who is this dude? What is this? I immediately said, wait a minute, that's Mean Mark. What's Mean Mark doing there? And to me, that was where wrestling, I knew it wasn't on the up and up at the time, but that's the first instance where I remember somebody like transforming into something different. But definitely Undertaker, just like Stone Cold. I mean, all-time great. One of those ones I respect more many years later than I did at the time. I wouldn't say I disrespect him at the time, but definitely just seeing his whole career and looking back, like, wow, I watched this entire career and just what he did and what he went through and everything else. I mean, once again, another one of those guys. There's probably 10 wrestlers that everybody say, okay, everybody make their Mount Rushmore. There's 10 wrestlers that would be somewhere on everybody's list, and Taker's definitely right up there as well.
Oh yeah, and you bring up not being as big Undertaker and appreciating him more with the nostalgia goggles on. That is, I didn't think about it when putting these notes together. That's very much how I feel with Bruiser Brody. Little kid, I'm like, damn, you're scared the crap out of me. But now looking back on him, I'm like, okay, I like this.
Yep.
Now, I have some kind of random questions in my next category here where, I give you the question, you give me first answer that pops in your head. First one, notice this in one of your, in all of your tour videos, you have a guitar collection. Is there one in particular that you would say is a favorite?
Yeah, there's probably two. I really like my Zakk Wylde Epiphone, the Bullseye one.
Oh yeah,
big Zakk Wylde guy for many, many years, back to the early Ozzy days when I was a kid. So that one's pretty cool. I also have my first ever guitar I got was a Squier, but it's one of those, like, Squiers is kind of the cheaper Fenders, but back in the day there was Japanese Squiers and Mexican Squiers that were basically the same thing, and it's all souped up and ready to go. And that's a fun one because I've had it the longest, I guess. But I used to play guitar every single day, all the time. And then, you get married, you have wife, kids, all that stuff. And it kind of went by the wayside. I mean, I can still strum out some Judas Priest every once in a while and things like that. But one day, hopefully I get to retire. And that's my plan, is every day I'm going to dedicate like 1 or 2 hours to guitar every single day and get my chops back, I guess, is what I would love to do. There's just never a time. I always talk about it. It's just, what is time and where is time? When you're a little kid, it seemed like days went on for weeks, and now you feel like, man, I'm home from work. I got a 3-hour window. Can I get all this in there? And it's just, time's a weird thing.
Oh, that it definitely is. And I thought about putting that question in here because I don't have a guitar collection, but in my many items in my autograph collection, I did happen to stumble on getting an autographed guitar from country singer Dierks Bentley.
Oh, okay.
I went, you come into Omaha area, the Stir Cove, the concert venue there. He was doing a concert there one time, and I'm like, I'm going to go see how close I could get. And I got like 2 people from the stage. And at one point, I remember him saying, "Where are my beer drinkers at?" And I'm just like, "Woo!" And then he starts pointing at me, and I'm like looking around, like he's not pointing at me. He's pointing at somebody near me, behind me, something. And then he comes down that concrete path there. Before I know it, I'm up on stage with him.
Oh, wow.
And before I know it, after that, he's bringing out prepared beers, and I'm shotgunning a beer on stage with him. And then later on in the show, he's pointing back at me, and he's like, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then I see him take a guitar that one of his guitar guys was playing and motioning for something to write with. And I'm like, no. Like in the back of my head, I'm like, oh my God. But, outwardly, I'm like, no, this is not. Walks back over, hands it to me. The security guys helped me after the show get back over the barricade and walk me back around to get to my car because they're like, there's no way we're letting you walk through that crowd with that.
Yeah.
So I got that cool little thing. I didn't even get to tell my damn family about it because apparently one of my now sister-in-law's friends was there and was like, oh my God, he got a guy up on stage and was shotgunning a beer. And they took a picture and she got sent it, looks over at my brother and is like, is that your brother? And
funny.
like literally 2 minutes before I ended up calling my parents to tell them about it because I'm like, holy crap. And then I'm like, well, damn it, I didn't even get to tell my damn family. They already found out about it.
Word travels fast.
Oh, that it does. Now, we've talked about AEW having some repetitiveness and some people that don't quite have figures yet. Who is somebody you think should have a toy there that doesn't?
Man, Surfer Sting for sure. And I think they've really dropped the boat. They have the luminaries in there where they put a classic guy. We've seen Jericho. They put a modern day Sting in there, but they have Sting. They should do a classic Sting for sure. That seems to be a layup, a very easy one. I'm trying to think. Selfishly, I'd like to see a Rio repaint just because I love looking for Rio. It's been kind of a joke on my channel for 3 years that, there's Rio. Dance across the sand, dance across our hearts, never change, never leave. I'd just like to start that all over again with a new Rio. That would be kind of fun. So that's selfishly just to me. But there's a lot. And I'm one of those people that would love to see everybody that wrestles get an action figure. I think that would be something to cement your legacy. That's something you can pass down to your kids, your grandkids. It's just something that would be really, really cool. So I hope that for everybody that's wrestles, they get an action figure. So really everybody that's, I'd say not somebody that's on there just one time, but anybody that's a regular member of the roster, I would love to see them get a figure eventually. So, but Sting is the first one that pops out. And I talked to Jeremy Padower about that, and he's like, "Oh yeah." I'm sure he's been asked it a million times.
Oh, I'm sure that would be a cool one. I know I have a few that I think would be pretty good. Now I know this first person has one in her WWE persona, but Athena, I think having an AEW / Ring of Honor figure would be pretty cool for her. Get her the women's title belt there. I think that would be pretty cool. Daniel Garcia, I don't think has one yet. That thing, he would be pretty cool. You can even have him. He's held the pure title for Ring of Honor, so you get him with that.
That Ring of Honor line is going to be on the Jazzware site, so they could easily put both of those in that Ring of Honor line if they wanted to, very easily.
That, and I've had the pleasure of getting to meet both of these guys, one of them more than once, but the Kingdom, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. I think they would be pretty cool. They've held titles there in Ring of Honor, so I kind of like it whenever possible that you've had somebody that's held a title, getting that in there with them, a little cool little extra deal.
Yeah. Mike Bennett, one time he was coming through this way, and my buddy runs a wrestling federation. He was working for him, and there was a big tornado or something, but he was supposed to come and actually was filming a documentary of his time on the road, and he was actually going to come to my house because he was down the street. And we were going to unbox his WWE figure at the table here. But then there was a tornado down in like Oklahoma, and they had to cancel the booking and everything. So,
oh no,
I always think about that. That would have been an interesting one.
Yeah, I think I met him probably 4 or 5 times in the span of a year. And the last time I got to meet up with him, I remember just walking up and joking, man, we got to quit running into each other like this.
That's funny.
Got a little joke in there. Now, I would feel weird with the name of a show like Drinkin' and Moe's if I didn't have this in here, but I wanted to add a little bit because I've heard a lot of talk about pizza on your channel. I'm a big fan of pizza, just like anybody. But favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic, non, or one of each, and then favorite pizza.
I used to be a big Jack and Coke guy. That was my drink of choice. I don't drink anymore, but I still drink the Coke. So
No.
I guess Coke would be my drink probably. First thing that comes off my head, just a regular Coke. I don't need any Diet Coke stuff. And then pizza wise, ooh, favorite pizza is tough. There's a place in Iowa called Pasquale's that's really good. It's called Pasquale's Pizza. It's a local mom and pop place. It's pretty good. They do frozen pizzas as well. There's a place called Wynn's I really do enjoy. I enjoy the mom and pop places. Actually, in the Omaha area, I'm actually a big fan of Big Fred's Pizza. You ever had Big Fred's?
I have. It's been a little bit, but I have. It's pretty.
I used to have meetings out that way a lot, and every time we came to town, they would take us there for dinner. So I like that. It's something different. I enjoy that one. There's another good one I had in Omaha not too long ago. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but I always say there's no such thing as bad pizza. I mean, I'll eat a Totino's pizza. I have no problem eating one of those things. So there's just some pizzas are better than others, is what I always say. But I definitely love pizza.
Oh, yeah. No, I am definitely in there. And I always do tell people when it comes to the drink question, just because it says drinking at Moe's doesn't mean it needs to be alcoholic.
Yeah.
I mean, I do drink, but I've had plenty of people on that for one reason or another don't. And hey, like I said, doesn't need to be alcoholic. And pizza, yeah, literally, you put a pizza in front of me, more often than not, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah, even a bad pizza is a good pizza. There's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, one of the few foods out there that, you know, sometimes might even be just as good cold.
Yeah, 100%. Sometimes better even.
Oh yeah, no, most definitely. They're one of the few foods that you can say that about.
Yep.
Now, last but not least, with such a massive collection that you have, I mean, definitely puts my little thing to shame back here. It's growing, but yeah, you definitely put mine to shame. Do you have any like holy grail items that you have not found yet that you're like, I want to have that?
Not too much. There's one that I have, and I don't know if I'll ever get it, but I have it loose and I have it mint loose. It is the old school LJN Grand Toys Ultimate Warrior figure. I mean, that was such a monumental occasion in my action figure collecting life and my playing days when I was a little kid playing with stuff. It was such a big deal to have the first ever Ultimate Warrior with my LJN. So that has so many memories to me. And I got a minty one loose that I absolutely love. But everybody says Grail. Well, it's got to be a Grail item. Get me a mint on card one of those. I would love to have one of those mint on card. That is truly my Grail piece. I mean, you're looking at a lot of money, obviously. So that's why it's a Grail, you know? So,
oh, yeah. No,
maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Yeah. I've always been, I've been more of a on card in box guy. Although I have been debating some of like that little memorial piece. Like I have a bunch of figures from guys that have since passed on, Andre the Giant, Ultimate Warrior, Big Boss Man, one of my personal favorites. I got to see him live once, and yeah, special little occasion that, that'd be my, oh God, holy grail item for me. I know me being such a big Stone Cold fan, there'd be a few figures there, but one that I don't think I've mentioned quite too often, the old Hasbro's, the Legion of Doom ones. I believe there was a 2-pack of them.
Yeah,
like
the red spikes.
Oh yeah, I'll settle loose, but oh boy, if I could find a on card one, oh, that would be hard to pass up.
Oh yeah, that was a big day, because back in the day when those came out, you didn't know. There was no internet or anything. You just go to Toys R Us one day and there it is. And I remember that day just being bowled over, because right up there with the Ultimate Warrior, I mean, it was just next level. There was a lot of excitement in collecting. There's still excitement in collecting, but back then it was a different age, a different world. Just being surprised at the shelf was a pretty cool thing.
Oh yeah, no, that is the thing that I, in some ways kind of miss from back in those days where it's like, you'd go and you'd be wandering around the store. You're like, I want to go to the toy aisle. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's something you're like, oh my God, I didn't know they even had that out.
Yep. Yep. I remember when I was a kid, like the X-Men Toy Biz figures, when those first came out, it was like there was Captain America, there was Toy Biz, Incredible Hulk, Punisher, Spider-Man. But then all of a sudden, you just walk in one day, here's series one of the X-Men. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, Juggernaut. I mean, it was just wild times back then.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, before we go, where can people find you social media wise if they don't already have their eyes on your YouTube channel and the like? They can go ahead and get them there, because I do highly recommend that if you're those that'll end up watching and listening, if you're not already subscribed to Kyle Peterson's YouTube channel, highly recommend it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's I always say you search on YouTube, you search Kyle Peterson. There's like two channels. Like my channel pops up, and then a guy that has like 10 million subscribers that's like a nature survivalist that gets like stung by different things. So one's got action figures, one's nature. You can kind of figure it out between the two, I think. So we got that one. And then social media, Sir Paul64 on the X, the former Twitter, of course. And then Instagram and Threads is the_Kyle_Peterson. And I got content every single day. I do 3 videos a day. So there's a lot of content out there.
Oh yeah, I think I'm about 3 a week right now. So you are definitely churning them out, but there's lots of information, very informative. I like how you describe the different details and different. It's entertaining as well, because
yeah,
I know for me, getting into collecting from guys like Ethan Page, the major wrestling figure podcast guys, and yourself, all got me really back into collecting, because I had been kind of out of the game for quite a while. And then I'm like, oh my, I wouldn't mind having some of that stuff.
The best compliment I ever get from people, and I get it every once in a while, it's that I don't even like action figures. I don't even like toys. I don't collect toys, but I just like to hear you talk. And what I share a lot of stories. There's a lot more than action figures. There's stories,
Yeah.
there's anecdotes of the week, things like that. So there's a lot of people that watch that don't even collect action figures. So that's about the highest form of compliment you could ever get, I think.
Oh, I would very much imagine so, because to get somebody to be a fan of your stuff when they're not necessarily a fan of wrestling figures or collecting whatever, they just like hearing you talk about it. Pretty damn big compliment, that is for sure. Yep. Well, that is about all I have. I can hear my dogs rumbling around upstairs, so I better go get them taken care of. But thank you for taking the time to talk to me tonight. I look forward to seeing more of the videos on your channel. And like I've mentioned before, when next time you're out here, we need to do a figure hunt.
A figure hunt and a pizza.
Oh, yes. Figure hunt and a pizza. That would be epic.
You got to know where all the good spots are for pizza. So we'll run through the list and we'll try a place I've never tried.
Oh, yeah. I got a list. I got a little list.
There you go. Perfect.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I said, that is about all I have. Thank you again, and look forward to seeing you out here sometime so we can get that done.
Will do. Sounds like a plan. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.